Yeah, so that's the memorial of our first president, Osajifo Dr. Kwame Nkrumah. And this is one of the iconic scenes in Accra. I believe Maria might have visited a couple of times. Yeah.
Yes, yes.
And then this is the Labadi Beach. This is the Labadi Beach, one of the few clean beaches that we have in Accra. In fact, I'm saying one of the few because, as Richmond might have testified, it's quite difficult to find a clean beach in Accra. So policies on beach cleaning and then the role of municipalities. You know, By, by law, by law, municipal authorities or local authorities are mandated to clean as part of their municipal services or roles to keep to manage waste and then also indulge in public cleansing. That includes all public places and then including the beaches as well. And this is by the Act 396 of 2016. That's the Local Governance Act. That this act defines the roles of all departments and units within municipal authorities. Here we call them assemblies. So that's more or less the blueprint as far as legislation concerning operations of municipalities are concerned. And this, as I mentioned earlier, includes waste management. And how do we do this? Sometimes the municipal authority or we AMA, Accra Metropolitan Assembly, we have our own staff. We have our staff that we engage in cleaning beaches. And then also, per our national sanitation policy, it is also mandates municipal authorities to mobilize communities and then organizations to conduct or to do beach cleaning as well as cleanups in communities and then public places. So this is one of the ways that we manage to keep beaches clean. And then also waste management and then beach cleaning goes hand in hand. When there's default in waste management, it affects the aesthetics on our beaches because we have a lot of drains and then also water bodies that eventually um, ends up or enters the sea. The sea is the main outfall of these water bodies. So whatever debris is carried by these water bodies and then channels ends up at the sea. So it's the duty of municipal authorities to make sure that there is proper waste management to reduce the amount of debris that ends up in public places, including the beaches. And then also, still by the national sanitation policy, we are mandated to also carry out education and awareness creation. Of course, we are also mandated to do enforcement as well. But the question more often than not have been, how many people can you put behind bars? So we do a lot of the education and awareness creation and then some law enforcement. But the main focus is on education and then awareness creation for people to change their attitude. In the earlier presentations, one of the resource persons mentioned something on open defecation in one of the Indian municipals. We have the same problem in Accra. We have people also indulging in open defecation on our beaches, and this is quite negative. The city or the municipal have taken several actions to increase the stock of sanitary facilities or latrines in households to reduce this incidence of open defecation. But still, people do indulge in this. So these are some shots of situation or conditions on some of our beaches. In fact, this is very close to the estuary of one of the main drainage channels in Accra. And most of this debris you are seeing here is not coming from just Accra, but from the northwestern part and then also the eastern part of the eastern region as well. And all this ends up at the beach in Accra. So here we have some security agencies that are helping in cleaning the beaches. In fact, this is the Ghana Immigration Service. And then also on the right, we have a city staff who is also doing some helping or performing some cleaning activities at the beach. So these are more pictures from our beaches. You can see, if you look closely, you can see that most of the debris here are plastics, flip-flops, and then some polystyrene that have been carried to the beach through drainage channels, and then also those that are disposed directly close to the sea. That's ends up at the beach side. And then what are the challenges? Accra is here to attain a universal waste collection coverage, especially in low income communities as well as informal settlements. So, such households in such communities dispose of their waste in the environment, and one way or the other, this waste disposed outside the collection ends up in water channels and then drainage that eventually gets to the beach. And then also, we don't have adequate waste management infrastructure like treatment facilities, transfer stations, and then engineered disposal facilities. So we have a lot of waste ending up, although the collection might be done right, but eventually this ends up in the environment. At times very far from the city, but they still manage to get into water channels and then ends up at the seashore. And then also we have a lot of industries and then households disposing of waste into water bodies and then drains, street side drains. In fact, this is very common in low income areas, as I mentioned earlier. And when it rains, all this debris is carried through other channels onto the seashore. The Odo is the main channel that drains the northwestern part of Accra as well as part of the eastern region. And the outfall of this channel is Jamestown in Accra. And this channel is over 40 kilometers, through Accra and then into the eastern region. So debris that is disposed into this channel as as far as 20, 30 kilometers from the city finds its way into the channel, especially when it rains. In fact, there are some very disturbing videos that I wasn't able to add that shows how debris is carried through the Odo channel onto the drains. I'll look for it probably before we end this session if the moderator will permit me to show that video as we go along. So this is the Odo channel, which is heavily polluted. Is not looking currently. Is not looking as it is here. It's is heavily polluted with plastics, and then the mangrove around section B has more or less been reduced in area because of pollution of the channel, both by solid waste and then industrial waste as well. And this is very close to this is just about a kilometer or less to the beachfront. So debris from this channel ends up at the beach, making things very difficult for city authorities. So what are the solutions that we can look at? But we are looking at banning single-use plastic. In fact, we are doing this with a lot of NGOs as well as national level entities like the Ministry of Environment, Science and Technology, as well as the Environmental Protection Authority to find ways of banning single-use plastic because it's now attaining catastrophic levels. Almost everything in Accra is being packaged in single-use plastic, and as Richmond mentioned earlier, is quite an issue in Accra. And then also, market for plastics is not very vibrant. It's just recently, about 2 or 3 years ago, that market for plastic is picking up. So with this opportunity, we have to find innovative ways of valorizing plastic so that citizens, after using plastic, will be able to probably utilize the devices that Plastic Punch intend to introduce in partnership with the Indians to at least for households or individuals to get some money or some change for the plastic that they return to these devices. And then also community mobilization. As our sanitation policy mandate says, we have to intensify community mobilization, not only to clean beaches, because ultimately that's not the solution, but of course to intensify education within the various communities for people to adopt good waste management practices and then avoid dumping waste into water bodies and then into the environment. And then also our waste collection coverage is still around 75, 80%. It means close to 20% of waste in Accra is not collected formally or not captured by the formal waste collection system. And this is quite significant. So as a city, we are working, especially with the informal waste sector, to expand waste collection coverage so that households in low income areas and then informal settlements will at least have or benefit from very basic waste collection services so that disposal into the environment will reduce, as well as into water bodies like Udo and then street side drains within the city. And then also waste management infrastructure. Now, the only over 90% of waste collected in Accra is disposed at landfill. And the existing landfill is about 90 kilometers round trip, if about 45 kilometers in and then 45 kilometers out. And that puts a lot of strain on the waste collection system. In fact, this distance affects the it affects the waste collection system and then increases the cost of collection as well because of the transport component. So we have started some activities to at least provide some transfer stations and then waste treatment facilities like compost plants close to the city to reduce the distance and then increase or improve the efficiency of our waste collection system. And then our almighty education and then awareness creation. This is something that we cannot stop. What we have to do now is to intensify education and then also review some of our city bylaws. For example, Accra is planning to implement a citywide source separation program to improve composting, quality of compost, and then reduce the cost of composting as well as recycling. Because the few informal and then private sector operators in in the recycling space more often than not complain about increased cost in processing plastic because they are stained with organics and other type of waste. So they have to use some more money to clean them before processing. So we want to implement a citywide source separation program so that recyclers will have cleaner material. People who are into composting will have quality feedstock to ensure that quality compost is produced for agricultural and horticultural purposes. And we started that by reviewing our bylaw to make source separation mandatory. So in brief, this what I have for you now, and thanks for your attention. I'll still look for that video and then let you have a look at it if the moderator will permit me. Thank you very much.